Welcome to DJNTV and Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Now introducing the one and only Ben Stowe.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. Good evening and welcome to Tuesday Night. Tuesday Night, the night where food is served and people are nourished. Yes, that's it. Nourished.
Is it because it's Taco Tuesday?
We've never done tacos. We've done cookies. We've done all sorts of candies, Christmas candies.
Right? Oh, yeah.
We've had ice cream. Yeah. We've never had tacos. Well, that's something. And if we were going to do a
something
show,
to try for, you know.
We could do a pizza show too. That would be pretty awesome.
I think as much as I love pizza, I think Rachel would disown me if I did a pizza show.
or it could be funny.
It could be.
We should do a campsite pizza show. That'd be huge.
Yeah, I'm down with that. Have we figured out our camping for this summer yet?
No, haven't yet. We looked at it again, but I'm juggling college kids graduating, high school children graduating, kids that are running in track and potentially going beyond the end of the track season because they're pretty good.
So the campfire pizza is going to be solo, is what you're telling me. It's going to be me with a selfie stick holding it up there.
With the selfie stick, and I'll be coming to you from a camp or from a track meet somewhere down in the cities. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to have time to go camping. You know, I was afraid of that the summer is looking so busy.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to kind of push back a little bit and trying to do all the things I said I would do after last year to try to, cover some dates, keep those set aside, but it's really hard to say no,
It really is, especially when we can look and say, the colder months, we don't have the opportunity to do weddings. We don't have the opportunity to do sound reinforcement, what have you. It's like, we'll have time in the winter. I think this is a story we've told ourselves over the years.
To go kayaking.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
I'll wait till I can just walk on the lake.
We can ice fish next winter, kids. Let's go do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm gonna make sure I get out camping at least one weekend this summer.
Yeah, that's something that's got to happen, and then I just have to, as we've said, box that in. But we'll get to that. So, hey, for tonight's show, we're going to talk a little bit about, because it's been incredibly windy here in Minnesota. For those of you who are had those times where you have a windy day or so, well, this is the season where the weather systems are changing, and we'll have a day like yesterday where it went from 40s in the morning to 80. We hit 80 here yesterday.
You guys hit 80. Wow, we got 67, which we thought was fantastic.
Oh yeah, it hit 80 for about that long. Ice, lakes gone, everything just was gone like that. So, and then today it fell back to 29.
Yeah, I think we got close to zero. It was absolutely miserable.
Oh,
I had to go. We got some things going on with gear, and I went and helped unload the truck, and it didn't take long where I was thinking about pulling rank and going, I'll just wait inside.
Yeah, you tell me when you're done. Okay, and then we'll go. Yeah.
Good job, guys. You're doing a great job.
So what I was thinking is and last night the wind was howling, and it's actually, I've got some electrical panels here, and you could hear it tick, 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 on the outside of the panels. And it's like, how, when you're doing outdoor festivals, you've done sound at large events, and we've seen some of the heavy rain, thunder type weather, but I'm sure there's times where you've got a good 10 to 15 mile an hour wind. And it's like, how in that realm does one handle live sound when you've got a wind to deal with?
Well, there's a lot of different ways that sound is affected by the wind, and it's funny because I think this is not going to relate to most of our viewers. We'll certainly talk about some things that will, but the first thing that came to my mind when you started talking about these winds, and I've seen them even higher than that, is we've got these long line array PA hangs, and the wind will start moving those. The PA itself will physically start moving. And typically we'll use, of course, it's rigged from a point that's, very strong and very secure. And then we'll usually use like cotton tie line or something to just tie it back to hold it in the position we want. Well, that does not hold up to the wind. And I remember one festival where we went and made steel aircraft cables with anchors in the ground to try to keep the PA from turning. And even that, it was just that wind was just ripping. Wow. There's other considerations, there, of course, soft goods, if you have a stage and a roof, at what point do the soft goods need to come off because they're a giant sail, which can move ships that weighs millions of pounds. So, you don't want it moving your stage or toppling your stage. And of course, that's no laughing matter, really. I mean, there's people who've been killed by that.
Certainly, yes.
And so, there's all kinds of ways that wind can affect us, but from a non-safety standpoint, and we'll certainly circle back to safety because that is something we talk about a lot. But from a non-safety standpoint, there's two places that I think wind really affects our sound. One is sound requires a medium to travel, as in the air. So you can't have sound in space, right? It's a vacuum. So they say. I don't know. Never been to space. But if somebody wants to start a GoFundMe to send me, I'd love to find out for sure. So
I might be able to help you there, Ben. I might be able to.
Yeah, I am willing for you viewers. I am willing to go to space to see if there's really sound in space. So if you want to send me, let's see if we can make that happen. But anyway, I'm told there's no sound in space. So because sound requires a medium to travel through. So that wind is of course blowing the medium, which is our air. And I mean, I can tell you that's a very real thing that I hear at festivals. When I'm 100 feet from the stage back at front of house and I'm at the mixing console, you can very much hear that. And it can get really irritating, particularly when the air is moving and the PA is moving. Because even if those PA boxes shift just a little bit, it's creating massive phasing problems, and it's really irritating in front of house. So we try to avoid that as best we can. The second way, of course, is sound hitting our microphones. Air hitting our microphones, wind hitting our microphones, and that's a really big problem. I think that's probably more of a challenge than even the wind blowing the sound coming from your PA. But those are the two things that come to mind when you say wind at events.
Certainly, yeah. The two areas, if I'm kind of envisioning for most DJs, we're going to run into this doing those ceremonies. Maybe a backyard party, but the times, especially microphone, we're going to be doing ceremonies, and there's got to be some lessons we can take from you, making sure that Billy Joe Bob country artist at the biggest the Twang Fest going on, or whatever the
Twang Fest. Yeah, I did that one.
I don't know. It seems like there's either it's the it's like Led Phillips in his acid guitar doing the rock concerts over here, or you've got the Twang Fest going on over here. It's all there is for summer concerts. It seems this year is one or the other. So we've got that wind. How do you handle it when you've got a singer? And then we'll kind of talk if it's different for male or female, but how do you handle it?
I'm still stuck on your characterizations of these festivals, but I just can't. Anyway. Well, let's talk maybe about things we might do in a typical wedding ceremony, but we could talk about concerts too. Ultimately, there's kind of a trade-off between, what the wind is doing and what the artist or performer will tolerate. With as far as you messing with their mic too, right? Mm-hmm. So wind screens are so called because they do just that. They block wind. And I think everybody's seen these things. I got one I can share real quick. So everybody's seen these things. They're foam. They go on your microphone and they help stop some wind. And they help also with some plosives and some of the things, the wind that we emit as people.
Sure.
And of course, most microphones have windscreens built in. So, we're taking the built-in windscreen of the microphone, which you can see in your video shot, John. You can see the mesh there on your microphone. Mm-hmm. And beneath that, there's some foam. And then we're adding another layer of, we're adding another layer of foam windscreen over the top of that. And those can help. And there are, better models than other. It's hard to imagine there could be that much difference in foam, but there's a little bit. The denser foams tend to do a little bit better job. And the reason that these work is really the sound that the wind makes when it hits a microphone is not the sound of the wind. The wind doesn't make any sound until it moves something. But when that air hits the microphone, that creates a lot of turbulence and it causes that microphone, to move and make sound, basically. Okay. Mm-hmm. So anything we can do to keep that off of there is going to help a lot. The foam windscreens tend to do a pretty fair job, but when it's really windy, I would say they're probably good for 3 to 5 miles per hour wind. I'm just sort of picking a number out of the air, so don't quote me on that. It's sort of a guess. But when things are a lot worse and you really need to quiet it down even more, There's a wonderfully morbid name we have for another type of windscreen called a dead cat. And I guess they're so called because they kind of look like, well, let's just look at one. There's a what we would call a dead cat type windscreen. It's more like a dead mouse. But anyway, I guess that name was taken. So let's see, there's another. This looks almost more like a troll, like a dead troll.
I was gonna say, it looks like some hair that I might want to get into in a few years.
Yes, but you can see how these are substantially different. You'd look good that way too, by the way, John.
Yeah.
You can see that these look substantially different than the one that we were talking about a minute ago with the foam. Yeah. And the reason is, as we talked about, it's that air hitting the surface and causing turbulence and that sort of thing that is creating that sound, which is fairly broadband, but tends to be heavier on the low frequency. So another way we can do that is maybe cut a little bit of a low frequency. Typically on vocals, we'd have a low cut anyway, but it will not get rid of all the sound. Just letting you know, it'll help, but doing a combination of these things can get us in a much better place. The reason that the dead cats work better is it's a much softer material. So, you have all these sort of little soft fibers that are kind of absorbing the wind and diffusing that wind energy before it gets into your mic capsule. Mm-hmm. However, they also tend to affect your sound a little bit more. So engineering is always a series of trade-offs, right?
So it's in essence keeping the wind from making the noise as it passes. But are those little fibers, are they kind of impeding then the wavelengths of the audio coming in then, or is it something that a little bit? It tends to be more of a problem on the high frequency.
Okay. You sort of see the roll off begin, and that makes sense. Higher frequencies, smaller wavelengths, all the physics that we talk about, it all kind of comes together.
So now in a concert situation, would a person use a dead cat? Because I've seen those obviously when like news crews are out in the field, and you'll see occasionally where they have the furry mic, the furry cover on the microphone. But in a concert situation, would you use something like that?
I have to be honest. I don't recall ever seeing a nationally touring artist use a dead cat on stage. Mm-hmm. I don't recall ever seeing that. I won't say it's never happened because I can't say that for a fact, of course. I haven't seen every concert, but I can say that I don't recall in my 27 or 8 years, whatever it is now, I lost track. 2020 didn't really exist, so,
Just give it a mulligan there and continue.
I haven't seen that. I have occasionally seen foam windscreens used, but even then, that's pretty rare. A lot of times, we're kind of forced to deal with it a little bit. Sure. Now there are ways to try to avoid having the wind come across your stage. Body position, the sidewalls on the stage, that sort of thing. There are other ways you can try to mitigate that. But
will the quality of microphone matter if you're using the quality of the element or the quality of the device itself?
I think I want to say yes, but also no. It's, better capsules obviously do a better job at a lot of things, but I don't know, that's not an answer I'm prepared to give to say, oh, well, if you get this capsule as opposed to that capsule, and they're both.
It isn't something that's talked about as a feature on microphones as much as.
Not really. Certainly not something that would be on my short list when I'm shopping for microphones. However, that is a really good segue for me to say that omnidirectional mics, particularly lavaliers, tend to be more resistant to wind noise. So those are something I recommend all the time when people ask about weddings. I say, well, get an Omni. It's a lot more resistant to wind noise, and you probably want to pick up everybody else around you, and you don't necessarily have experienced mic users with you. Now, on stage, you'd never see an Omni. That'd be exceptionally rare. We're typically seeing supercardioids or cardioids or maybe a hypercardioid, but I don't recall having a singer ever use an Omni. Drum overheads are a place that I actually seem to have more problem with wind than vocal mics, ironically. And I was just trying to figure out in the back of my mind why. So viewers, if you could see me looking confused, that's because I was trying to talk and think at the same time, and that's very hard for me. Just thinking is hard to begin with. I don't know. I was trying to work out why that might be, but maybe the air swirls a little bit back there. I don't know.
It's hard, and it may be that movement that when a person's holding a microphone, as you mentioned, side of stage is doing its thing, and they might be able to position out of that when they're hearing that wind and knowing, if I sing this way, I don't have it. If I sing this way, I have a lot of it.
It's a very good point, because, they're obviously going to hear it in their monitors, and it's going to be very irritating to them too. So,
Yeah.
And of course, particularly with something like the directional capsules, like we talked about, cardioid, hypercardioid, or supercardioid, the business end of the mic is facing you. So inherently your body's going to shield that a little bit.
Exactly. And with drummers, I mean, would
Yeah,
they
those
hear it
overheads are just sticking up there.
Would they hear it in their monitors? Can they hear their monitors? Can they hear?
Overheads are never in the monitors. I don't know any drummer. I can't remember. I mean, again, I'll never say never, but I will say, before I say this, let me say, I don't like mixing monitors. I like being 100 feet away up front of house. I'm happy about that. Plus, I get the big boom boom out there. The monitor engineers, they just get yelled at by everybody. So that's not for me. You gotta have a heart of gold to be a monitor engineer, and I don't. So anyway, but I have mixed monitors a few times for some national artists, and I don't recall ever having anybody ask for overheads in their mix. Mm-hmm. Usually if you get any drums in your mix, it's kick. Nobody ever really asks for toms or, maybe snare at the rare outset, but never, hats or overheads or anything like that. So probably nobody's hearing it.
Well, Brian Harris is hearing it, and yeah, he's always there. He's with us tonight.
Is he? Oh, hey. So Brian, do you have overheads in your monitor? I bet not. Let's poll the audience. Does anybody ever put overheads in their monitors? And if so, this is a two-part question. If so, why?
He's about 20 to, he's on Facebook tonight. And of course, no, he doesn't. So yeah, he's not that far behind us though. Thank you. Big Brian. So yeah, we had a really good crowd with us tonight. So thank you guys for being with this evening.
Monitors always fascinate me, by the way, sidebar, because what musicians are listening to and what they're keying off of really surprises me all the time. Vocalists almost always want to hear their vocals. That makes total sense. But sometimes you'll get somebody who'll be like, oh, I only want bass guitar. You're like, really? Nothing else? They're like, nope. Like, okay. And it's maybe a keyboard player. And he's like, oh, I don't care. All I want is bass guitar. That's it. I'm like, you don't want to hear what the lead singer's sing? He's like, God, no. I hear the same joke for the 800th time tonight? No. I mean, I don't know, but whatever. It's, they're pros, and if it works for them, who am I to judge, right? Give them what they want, right? So
that's interesting. You would just kind of somewhat assume that they would want the full mix at a level, and then different, maybe this a little higher, this a little lower.
I can say this with some confidence. Again, I've mixed a few national acts at monitor. Most of my work is at front of house. Again, that's because I like it there, and I'll pick that if I can. But I've had the good fortune of mixing some award-winning national artists at monitor, and I can't think of a single one that had the full mix. It's usually really limited channels. It's usually a handful of things that they want.
Wow, I guess I learned something. I would not have guessed that.
Yeah, and again, they're pro. Now, on the other hand, with amateur musicians, I hear that more and more. They're like, well, just give me the house mix. I'm like, okay, and that partly I think that's because that's all they're used to. Sure. If you're playing clubs, or whatever, you're playing coffee shops or whatever it is, I don't want to characterize your typical small venue, but you may not have a monitor mix. You may just be hearing the main PA, and so that's what you're comfortable with. And I think, by the time you're a national artist, a Grammy winner, VMA or whatever, you know what you want and you know what you need to listen to, and you don't want the rest of it. It's just kind of, not, but again, they're the boss, whatever they want. I'm going to give it to them. Yeah. You want that? Great. I'll give it to you. In fact, I think I told the story. I feel like I should name names. I'm not going to, but he was a really nice guy, heck of a nice guy to work for. And he's been in the business a long time, which is the problem. He's stone deaf, and kept asking me to turn his monitor up and up and up. And I was running out of up. I mean, I was out of output on the board. I was out of output in the monitors. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And his bandmates had warned me before the night. They're like, yeah, he's gonna be a problem, because he can't hear anything. He's deaf. So I started looking to see if I could get inside his head a little bit by experimenting with the levels in his mix to see what he was actually paying attention to. And what I ended up doing was giving him less of other things, started turning things down so that he could hear the one thing he was actually really listening for, even though he wasn't identifying that, verbally. He wasn't saying, hey, the one thing I really need to hear is this.
Right.
I started playing and I found it. And all of a sudden I watched him smile. He's like, yeah, I got what I need. And I'm like, well, what you need is hearing aids. But I mean, you also have some of this in your mix now. So good for you. Oh, and P.S. he was not using in-ears. He was using Texas headphones. So basically 2 big speakers on either side of the drum kit. And I'm like, my brother, and he's got to be in his 70s, but I'm like, man, it's not too late. Get some in-ears. Save what's left. My daughter's hearing impaired, as you know, and I think about how precious hearing is, not just for her, but also for me in my career. So Anyway, we totally sidetracked from wind, which is good because we had to fill this show somehow.
Oh no, we're still doing well. Now I want to transition. You started actually us off talking about wind and keeping your speakers stationary when you come to the large concert events. Now, when we're going to be outside doing these things, so we typically will have speakers up on speaker stands, which are not the most stable when it comes to wind events and such. A couple of ideas or something that a person could do when it came to that to keep those speakers from going.
Yeah, a few things. One, Gator has their quad pod stands, which have a 4th leg. So just maybe a little bit more stable, right? 3-wheelers aren't stable, 4-wheelers are more stable. So that would be one thing just right off the bat. But probably the most obvious and easy thing is weight. And weight down low, because when you have a speaker up on a speaker stand, the speaker stand weighs very, very little. It's aluminum, and you've got the speaker on top that has all the mass. So your center of gravity is really disproportional. It doesn't have to move a lot before it's going over, So if we can put more weight at the bottom, that's going to help a lot. Sandbags are inexpensive and easy to use. Throw some sandbags on there. That'll help a ton. You could also do some things with tie down straps, that sort of thing, sort of outriggers, and in so doing, you're basically expanding the size of that base and making it less likely to tip.
Somebody mentioned that you could buy some Evolve 30Ms from Ben and it won't blow over.
And they're very aerodynamic. Yeah, the wind slices right around them.
Right,
so that's other thing you could do. Yes, get some Evolves or another column array. They're very aerodynamic. Yeah.
Let's just jump back to the sandbags. I've got my tripod just because they were so very common. Where would you put the sandbag on the tripod?
More often than not, if I've got a really solid stout stand, I'll kind of put them in the center where the braces from the leg meet the center pole. Mm-hmm. But again, beware, those braces weren't really made for holding a lot of weight. So, just if your stand is fairly light duty, you may not want to do that. Then, and maybe in addition to that, I'll lay them over the legs on the edges, just kind of hold that leg down, and sometimes I'll even pile a couple of them up there, just whatever. But I'm lucky. I got a whole collection of sandbags, and so it's easy to just go grab one and throw it on there. Mm-hmm. Where we use them the most probably won't surprise you a bit, though. But our tents, like a tent we have for front of house, or beside the stage, that sort of thing. Those things are like giant sails, and a lot of times I will have the sidewalls on the tent for 2 reasons. One, I want some privacy, and 2, I need to be able to see my mixing console screen, and the sunlight can be problematic. So as long as the sidewalls aren't impeding with what I'm hearing, then I'll try to have those on. But then, of course, now my tent will catch a lot of air, so you got to weight that thing down like a son of a gun. So.
And that's really
usually by the headliners, it's dark, and so I'm not too worried about them. So I'll take the sidewalls down. And again, it helps with hearing too, which is kind of important when you're mixing. But during the day at a festival, you're kind of like, we're going to make some compromises here. We're going to put the sidewalls up.
Get a little air and sun in here.
Well, plus you get sunburned standing there all day. Look, I'm a fairly fair complected guy.
Yeah.
I'm Irish. Our people don't tan; we burn, right? So
peel and we're off for another day. Sandbags. Let's talk just a little bit about those.
We molt like snakes.
Yeah, there's that. I've been there, done that. The sandbags are the sandbags that you use. Are those something that is a professional? Is it a homemade thing? Kind of explain that a little bit for those who've never used those.
Fielder's choice. I bought mine. They're heavy duty and they got a carrying strap, on them. It's kind of nice, but we sell them both as filled and empty. Filled sandbags are nice because they're filled and they're ready to go. You buy it and it's all sealed up and you don't have to worry about sand leaking out of it. Downside is they're heavy, so they cost money to ship. The empty ones, well, they weigh nothing. Empty. Bring your own sand. It may leak out over time, which can be really irritating. Just sand gets everywhere. And as Anakin Skywalker said, I hate sand, right? You could certainly sew your own at home. I mean, the last thing I sewed was a pair of jam shorts. And if you're under 40, you have no idea what those are. But, there was a thing back in like the 90s and 80s part of a home ec class in school, I had to sew a pair of jam shorts. That was the last thing I sewed. So I'm not sewing any sandbags.
Yeah, probably not so much. Not quite the same durability expectations between those two.
The shorts we were required to wear them one day in school and they barely made it through a day. So I don't think I'd want to test a sandbag with my sewing skills. So not that, you really don't want middle schoolers shorts to fail in the middle of the day too, right? You're insecure about enough as it is right then. The last thing you need is, for your shorts to fail. So.
That one seam to pop.
So kids, if they're still doing that in home ec, double stitch those things, right? Just
backstitch. Use
sandbag material, Cordura, just get armor plated jam shorts. Kids don't even know what jam shorts are.
Yeah, they're having fun with that in the chat room between Facebook and YouTube.
I'm sure you are. Laugh it up, fuzzball.
That's funny. That's funny. Okay, so we've talked about microphones. We've talked about our speakers and such. I think we've covered the last part you were hitting on was tents, because a lot of people will have the tent up. Sandbags are pretty much when you're having to secure your tent. That's what you're using most of your time.
Yeah, we'll anchor them in the ground with tent stakes, and when possible, we use guy lines and things on the pole too. But when you just need a little bit more weight, sandbags work really well. I've also seen people use weight plates, which work great. We just happen to have a pallet full of sandbags in the truck, so it's an easy thing to go get, right? But whatever works for you, really. The name of the game is making it heavier, lowering its center of gravity, that sort of thing.
Excellent. That is wonderful. That kind of covers our bases, and that's what I wanted to hit tonight. So before we wrap up, Ben, and we didn't talk about this, but I've had some people wondering, that now that we're getting closer to summer, if you're starting to hear of any kind of new gear coming out in the horizon as you look that way. Have you heard anything that's going to be coming out here in the next month or so?
I can honestly say that I'm not privy to anything specific, but I'm hearing rumors of things that may come out, at least from brands. I think if there's anything we can say with certainty, there will always probably be a new DJ controller around the corner. I mean, it's every 6 months, that's a pretty safe bet. People that are saying, well, I'm going to, just wait because the Rain 1 MK2 will be out any day now. I doubt it. They haven't even filled the orders for the one from January yet. So I think we're safe on that for a while. Anyway, I think the one will be probably as it is for a little while, maybe a year or two, but we'll see. I don't know. I haven't really, I have a few things I'd like to see, but I haven't seen them yet. I know of a couple things that are in the pipeline, and I don't know when they'll drop. But as my customers know, many of you are friends of mine that are watching. I'm pretty good about telling you what I can't tell you to say, well, how fast do you need that?
Yeah, and I think I haven't heard of anything specifically myself, but you're starting to feel more optimism. I think in the industry. So it's kind of like last year. It was like, was there something new? I don't know. What are we going to be alive next month? We don't know. It was just a lot of that. This year, it's like, so is there something new coming up? Well, boy, we're so excited. It's going to be that just a completely different feel.
I'm seeing that and hearing that in every facet. I think everybody knows that we are very close to being, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We now know that light is not a freight train, that we really are. I mean, we've got some struggles ahead. There's still challenges with the semiconductor shortage, the shipping container shortage. Of course, everybody, knows the Suez Canal thing didn't help, but that was just icing on top of the whipped cream, on top of the cherry, on top of the whatever. I'm trying to say. Just go with the analogy. That in and of itself is not the biggest problem we have. It just compounds the problems we already have. But yeah, the optimism is huge. We're seeing it in every facet of the industry. Concerts are calling, tours are calling, promoters are calling, venues are calling, DJs are seeing bookings and they're getting deposits. And if you're watching and you're not yet, you will. We're very close to being done with this thing. That said, I'm gonna put on my non-existent epidemiologist hat for a second, and I'm gonna say we're not there yet. So please don't blow it. It's like watching your team play with a lead, and we just have to finish business. I watched my beloved Bemidji State University Beavers play 60 minutes of amazing hockey against the University of Wisconsin, and they beat them soundly for 60 minutes. It was a beating from the minute the game started to the end. And then the next night, I watched UMass do the exact same thing to us. I knew 6 minutes into the game we weren't going to win, and UMass just kept beating us till the end of the game. Those are different. This is like watching a team win for 50 minutes and blow it in the last 10. And that could happen to us with COVID. Just keep doing the stuff we need to do. When you can get vaccinated, and if you don't believe in vaccines, fine, whatever, you do you. But, if you do, go get it. The more people that are, that's the better. Wear your mask. Science says they work. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to care. Just put it on, please. I want to go back to work.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I think if we can just finish this thing strong, it's not political. I'm not preaching to anybody. I'm pleading with everybody to say we're so close. Let's not blow this now.
Yeah, we're getting very, very close. Got a couple of questions here we'll hit, and then we'll wrap up here in a couple. Somebody was wondering if you could talk just a little bit more about a lapel at a ceremony outside with windy conditions. He or she, I guess it doesn't say Facebook users, all it says. The question comes from someone who is saying that they've heard maybe if you tuck the lapel under the tie of the groom, that might help with wind noise. It
does. Pros and cons. It does because it prevents the wind from hitting it. The con is that if they're moving around a lot, now you may get the rubbing sound of the fabric.
Sure.
So, again, you have to kind of pick which what your poison's going to be. But it can work. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's see. There was David was asking, NLFX is going to be at Midwest DJs live here next month.
We haven't missed a one, so we're proud to be there. I'm not sure if I get to be there or not yet. I know I know Kat is going, and I heard Katie might, but I don't know if she is or isn't anymore. Things are very much in flux, and again, we're trying to sort all these things out just like everybody else too, and trying to keep up with all the demands and commitments that are placed on us. So yes, NLFX will be there. Kat for sure. Maybe me. Don't know. I'd love to. Love that show. Love seeing my friends there. I'm really anxious to get out and see friends again. I'm excited for that time when it's safe to do it. I'm a hugger. Got to get out there and give my hugs, So.
Yeah, that time's coming quick, which is about time. That it is. Excellent. Well, we're going to wrap things up here, gang. So Ben can get on with he's had a busy day today. So in about half an hour, just about 25 minutes, we're going to be back live on YouTube with our next show tonight. We're going to do a short show, and I say short show because it'll be Brian, Jay, and myself. So
it won't be short at all.
It's going to be a short show. I'm guaranteeing it's going to be a 30-minute show. I'm going to go out on a limb. But we're going to be talking about some of the difficulties as we're getting a little bit older and we're at weddings or even high school events, and it's kind of building up that hearing loss thing that Ben was talking about. How do you communicate with people when you're at an event and you're needing to take requests? And we're going to talk to Brian and Jay and get their thoughts on what they have done successfully and not so successfully when it comes to taking requests. So, Ben, thank you much for your insights and such.
You can learn American Sign.
Yeah, I can barely communicate in American English.
You don't have to be deaf to do that. So
no, just have to be talented, and there's where I fall off the.
think with a hearing impaired daughter and a career mixing for concerts, I kind of figured we should probably both learn sign language.
Yeah,
So
that was a wise
ironically,
decision.
my brother, who is hearing, is fluent in it, and I'm pretty lousy at it. Anybody who knows it, who just watched that, knows they're like, "Yeah, you're terrible." I am. You're right. I'm working on it. So
Yeah, I'm working on it. I have been for 10, 15 years, and I'm still working on it.
yeah, I can almost finger sign my name now after 10 years. That's progress, right?
You're getting better.
I don't even know my name. I'd just be like, stupid me. So, that's all I need to know.
Self-deprecating humor in sign language. All right. Anyway, Gabe, we'll catch you in about 25 minutes. Just watch for the link here on DJNTV. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.